So today we're gonna tackle job interview skills, and this is one of the key topics that many people dread, especially after you have your certification. Unicaf has helped you all the way to get your degree. Then you want to go to face a panel or even just attend an interview session somewhere. Then you're worried, how are you going to take this? This session is going to help you see how you get over all this and emerge top, but also just have an edge against the people that you are competing with. So I'm going to share with us our TOC. And our TOC today, that is the table of contents, we have things that we're going to tackle throughout the session. And one of it is, what is a job interview? Do you know what is a job interview? And how can you prepare for a job interview? What are the types of interviews that are available for you? And what are the do's and don'ts in a job interview? Because in every game we have the rules and regulations. So interview being a professional process, it also has its do's and don'ts. And so we are also going to check at the verbal and non-verbal communication, because one of the scholars stated that you cannot not communicate. And so whether you speak verbally or non-verbally, you are communicating. And so part of this session, we are going to see how that comes around the interviews. And then we have the commonly asked questions, how best to navigate them. And maybe I will just mention that we may not be able to handle all the questions here, but please feel free to type in the questions. We will take our time to respond to them at the end of the session. And if time does not allow, we also take time probably to communicate to you later after the webinar. We're also going to look on overcoming anxiety and fear in a job interview. Yeah. Most of the times we walk into the interview with a lot of anxiety, probably because of the situations we are in life and all that. And then we have, lastly, the post-interview etiquette. So that is what is on our table of contents today. I move ahead and just want to throw this back to the team. What is a job interview? I know once in a while, whether it's an entry-level job or it's a professional job, then you have been in a position to attend an interview. But what is this thing called an interview? We will define this as a very formal and in-depth conversation where an applicant is asked questions by the potential employer. This is the person who has done the job advert. And what do they aim at? They aim at finding out if you're really suitable for this specific position or role, because when they're going to hire you, they expect you to, deliver on the role and the specification that they had given out there. So as the world is evolving, the interviews have been conducted through various channels. And as we know, the pandemic happened and people moved away from the face-to-face interviews for a while. So we've been having the face-to-face, we've been having the telephone interview, we've been having the virtual channel, e.g. Skype, Zoom, WeChat, and several others. So this is not limited. Some people will do it through the Microsoft Teams, depending on the organization. And so we have several ways where these job interviews can actually be done. So how do you prepare for a job interview? How do you prepare for a job interview? The first key thing that you need to do is to do a thorough research on the company. Yeah. What are the services that they sell? What are the products that they are offering? Are you in line with the company's mission, vision, and also the values that they carry along? What is the company culture? Is it a place that you are able to, in sync and be able to work with the team? What is the company's leadership, including the board of directors? And also, this particular company, have they ever received any awards? Because by noting if they have, then it means that they have a good name out there and they are also leaders in their own way. So you need to have this all in your mind. Do not just assume that you got this job description and you applied for a job and you just move into the interview without doing a proper background research of the company. Remember, some of these are going also to be asked, are usually asked in the interviews, and if you don't have any information on them, then you may not be able to articulate yourself in order. All right. So still on how to prepare for a job interview, we have just a minute. We have done the first part, which is how to prepare for a job interview. And so we are going to see how do you carefully review the job descriptions to prepare your arguments that show you are a good fit for the job and convince the interviewer. You see, when the organization is writing out a job description out there, then it means there is a particular job that they need to be handled. So your responsibility as an interviewee is to go through this job description point by point to see how qualified you are, because sometimes we apply for jobs that we do not qualify for, and so we tend to waste a lot of time since you're not going to be shortlisted because we do not match those job descriptions. So once you have been called for the interview, remember you had stated that you have these job descriptions that the company had given. So you need to go through them and just internalize and also just picture how you're going to answer these questions according to the job description that are listed there. The other thing is to practice speaking with confidence, because most of the time people walking into the interview, they are a bit anxious, and also they are not prepared. And if you're not prepared, then you're going to be more anxious and not be able to present yourself in a manner that is going to give you an edge over your competitors. You need to really pay attention to your facial expressions. You need to smile as you walk into the interview room. That is, if you're going for a face-to-face interview. And as you even a way to sit on the chair, your facial expressions as you speak is very key, because it shows how confident you are. If you're confident in your presentation, then it means you're going to be confident in your work. The other point is to ask family and friends to help you do a mock interview to practice. Take some time and also just ask people that are around you to ask you questions in regards to the interview that you're going to attend. Try and answer them candidly. Let them see places where you need to improve on. And I believe that one or 2 points will be able to be noted there, and you'll be able to have a good preparation for that matter. Most people walk into the interview room without the printed copies, and sometimes the organization may want to verify if your certificate is really recognized or if you really have them. So do not wait to be told to print your copies or resumes, and just have them ready each and every time you walk into an interview room. We have another point. The day before your interview, what are you supposed to do? People wake up in the morning. In Nairobi, we know there is a lot of traffic, and you are not even aware of the location where the organization is. You need to make sure you're well aware of the location and have made some great, reliable travel arrangements to get yourself into the interview on time. There's a lot of traffic in Nairobi, so you need to plan your time well so that you don't get there sweating and all confused in the morning or afternoon where you're supposed to take your interview. Ensure that your clothes that you're wearing are very clean and ironed. Be neat, because your first impression of how you appear and walking into the interview really matters to the interviewer, because most of the jobs require you to meet clients and also meet some of the potential donors, and also just clientele that are going to be part of the organization. So if you're not presentable, then it shows a lot about how you take that job seriously or not. We also have another point You need to save the interviewer's contact information in your mobile in case of any emergency. Things happen on the road. You might get an accident, you might get late on traffic, you might get late on or something might happen on the way, or you might forget the the direction of the place where you're going. So you need to have these contacts, call whenever you can, so that you are able to just reach your destination without any problems. Nowadays, most people have mobile phones, so it shouldn't be an excuse at all. Get adequate sleep so that you can wake up refreshed. You find someone is taking all their time revising for the interview the entire night. They didn't even get to rest. So when you get to the interview, you have sore eyes, you have swollen eyes, you are not really ready, and somebody just looks at you and this person is not just prepared for this interview. You need to sleep early, wake up on time, bathe, prepare yourself in a great time, and just be ready for your interview. Remember, there are interviews that take place through video interviews. So ensure you have downloaded the application. If you are told it's Microsoft Teams and you have never used Microsoft Teams, then you should be able to download this app, get to navigate the system within, and just to know how your way around it. Don't wait until the interview day. You don't know how to log in, you don't know where to reset the volume, the sound, and all that. It all shows how confused you are, and that is what you're going to replicate in your job. So the first impression, even on how you prepare yourself for the interview, is very key. So up to that point, I hope that we are keen and enjoying this session. We're going to look at the different types of interviews. Remember, the interviews are not limited to a certain way because of the distance. Sometimes we have international companies hiring and they are not on site, and all this determine the mode of interview that you're going to be undertaken through. So I know some of us have probably gone through a few, if not all, of the interviews that you're going to mention. We're going to look how we're going to prepare for them so that as you receive them, then receive this invitation, you know how to, just carry yourself around them. We have number one, the telephone interview. This one is usually used as a shortlist. We have an employer who has a list of employees that they're trying to contact before they come for the face-to-face interview. And so they pick up their call and call you just to get to hear it from the horse's mouth that whatever you have written in your CV or your resume resonates with what you are saying. So they do not want also to waste their time to call you into the face-to-face interview, yet they have not ascertained a few things about you. So what do? They pick up their call, they call you, hello, I'm so and so, and they get to ask you a few questions. Mostly they're about your job responsibilities, just recapping everything that you have written in your CV. So you need to have them at the tip of your hands. Don't wait until that moment when your call is when you want to look around where your CV is, because you have just copy pasted CVs in the internet and it is not what you have as your experience. It is popularly also used with companies calling from different countries if they are not able to come in contact with their interviewees during that particular time. You need to be very professional when undertaking their phone interviews. If you're in a place that is noisy, you can always ask them to call you once you are settled. If you're probably not hearing them well, you need to also say that so that you do not answer to questions that you have not understood. So do not take it as a very casual interview. The telephone interview is an interview that is going to get you into your next level interview that is usually face to face. So I guess we have a tip of that. And the second one is the video interview, very common, especially now that we have this pandemic around and people are not able to meet physically, and interviews have to go on anyway. So we have Skype, we have Google Hangouts, we have FaceTime, we have Zoom, we have Microsoft Teams, and very many other applications that companies are using out there. You may not be in a position to have used all of these, but like I said earlier, it is your responsibility to take time to know the application that you are going to use for the interview prior to the interview date. Do not wait until the last minute to log in just to do that. We also have this is also very popular with companies calling from different countries. Of course, they are not able maybe at that particular time to bring themselves on the ground to undertake the interviews. I'm hoping that we are getting each and every point, internalizing it, and just getting to see a broader way of how these interviews get to be conducted. We have the famous one, the third one, the face-to-face interview. I believe 99% of people have gone through this, and it's usually a meeting between the interviewee and the representative of the potential employer. This is usually considered the most popular one because you find the high end or managers being interviewed on face to face so that they can be able to meet the person behind the CV. And also, as it is, it allows employers to get very close and personal with each candidate so that they can also be able to see you in person and just to see how you articulate your points that you had stated in the CV. We have another interview, not very common, but broadly used by companies that are recruiting in large numbers and usually also large groups. We have different interviews at the same time who have a range of different skills. One thing that you must realize with this kind of interview is that they will be checking on each and everything that you will be doing. This is how you interact with your team. If an exercise is given, if it is about teamwork, they need to see if you're a team player. They need to see if you are able to talk to your team members well. If there is a conflict during that time that you're doing that exercise, then how did you handle it? So do not underestimate the assessment day if you are called for such an interview, because they are able to practically see how you'd behave in a team, because you're going to join their organization, and they need to see how that is going to come around. Who uses this most? Airlines recruiting cabin crew. We have companies recruiting the graduate trainees, and the fast food chains recruiting restaurant staff. And this, you find out that probably if Java is hiring, then they have branches all over Kenya, and they need a large number of employees. So they are not able to just do one-on-one, but they call them in a room, uh, usually a selected place. You have to go to the venue physically, and they give you exercises that you need to do in order to emerge the winner. So during this time, like I said, please be very careful in everything that you do, because this is just like an interview, like face-to-face, the video and all others. Then we have the panel interview. The panel interview is more of face-to-face. The only difference is that they interview very few people, not a large number of people. But then also we find it very popular with senior positions in organizations. So they have probably selected out of 20, then they have come up with 5 people who they think are potential for that particular position. And so they do a panel interview. Most of the time we have the decision makers of that particular position and the supervisors of the post who are well versed with what that person is coming to do, who are sitting in that panel. So you need also to be ready to answer to the behavioral questions that includes actions that you have taken at your job in the past or achievement that you've done. So the panel interview most of the time also is very close. It's mostly one-on-one. Sometimes it can be done on Zoom or any other application through video. And then we have the final one, that is the working interview. How does it operate? The candidate is usually asked to complete an actual job task as part of the interview. And this is usually for very mechanical roles like engineers, and you are required to complete a task, maybe told to connect something so that they can see how you would operate that in the farm or in the organization that they are employing you to. Interviewers do this when they want to actually see if you can do the job itself, because writing it on paper, and if you say you are an architect, by just writing, then I need to see if you can do one or two, three things, activate one or two, three things, then I am sure that you are able to do that particular job. So probably it may take a few hours as you do that. Mostly also very popular with technical and retail sales, like I said earlier. So they need to see the skills put into place as you do your interview. So those are the types of job interviews that I have for now. And what I will say at the end of this session is that you need to take each and every of those interviews very, very seriously. They play a role and a part in your next opportunities. Like we said, in each game, there are do's and don'ts, and interview is not an exception. We have professional things that one needs to do so that you get ready for your interview. One of it that is very important is to do the research of the company. How do you do this? You do this by checking their website and all the social media. Today we have companies on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. So you need to go there and see, what are these people up to? Do you resonate to the vision and mission of the company? If you, I had an example of a friend who was going for an interview at Maristops, and they were coming from a Christian background, so they were not for the idea of abortion. So they were asked on the interview day if they are going to, support the policies of the organization. And at that point, she mentioned that it is something that she will not be able to do. So there is no need of going to these steps if you do not resonate to what these companies do. Do a research of the company, get to know if you're able to sell their vision and mission in advance, see what they do on their social media accounts, what are the activities that they have done before, what can you do better, so that when you go for these interviews, you are not only coming for the interview, but bringing in new ideas that you'd be able to implement to show the employer that you are the right candidate for this particular job. Right? Then we have treat everyone with respect. And this is everywhere. It should be a human nature to treat people well, not only on the interview day, but on this particular day. Even if you don't treat people well, please try and be nice. We are told of a story of a candidate who went to an organization, and when they reached the lift area, people were struggling to get in, and there was this person also struggling to get in, and he was among the people pushing each other to try and get into the lift. And so one of the people from the lift just stepped out and let them get in. So when they got to the interview, they found out that this person is one of the senior people who are sitting in the interviews. And the behavior that was shown on the lift honestly doesn't show courtesy. If the lift was full and somebody was ahead of you, then it would have been good for him to excuse themselves. So treat people well. You never know who you're going to get where, who is going to do a referral for you or recommend you for that particular interview. You need to project confidence through your body language. You don't sit and your hands are here, you're fidgeting, you're not sitting straight, you're not looking, maintaining eye contact with the interviewers. You also need to smile a bit often. Don't look as if you're not part of the interview and you're thinking about your own things. We say the verbal and non-verbal all matters. Those are all forms of communication. So they speak a lot about uh, who you are in an interview. So smile uh, and just sit up and maintain eye contact throughout the interview. We have people who come into the interview late, sweating and confused. Most of the time in Kenya, they say it's traffic jam, but you knew coming from your place, probably in Donholm, going to Kilelesho would take you 1 hour, but you decided to give it 30 minutes. This is going to be an undoing for you because when you arrive late, then you will be confused. You will start have anxiety panics, and you will not be able to do your interview well. Come in earlier. If there are any registrations that are supposed to be made, then you'll be able to register on time. You'll be able to relax and just think through your interview before you get into the panel. They say give it at least 15 minutes before the set time so that you have enough time to just get ready. We sorry, we talked about sorry we talked about bringing your printed copies of the CVs, and I'm not going to mention much about that. It's just that carry your printed copies. Listen careful to the questions before answering. You find sometimes somebody is just quick to answer questions. The employer has not even finished asking the question, you jump into answering, or you have not contextualized what is being asked. So be careful on that. Sorry about that. The other thing is to ask appropriate and relevant questions. And what do you mean when you talk about appropriate and relevant questions? Appropriate and relevant questions doesn't mean that during that time is when you ask when you're going to have your off days and all that. If it is an initial interview, please ask questions related to the job descriptions. And you need to dress formally and look very presentable because sorry, excuse me for that. You'd need to dress formally and look presentable. How? If you are going to church, you know how to wear when you're going to church. If you're going for a sports event, you know what to wear for a sports event. And if you're going for an interview, then there is a dress code for the interview. They say dress formally, do not overdress too. Check out the colors that you are also wearing. Don't do so bright colors as you move into the interview, and ladies sometimes overdo their makeup and their jewelry and all that. Be formal and look very presentable for that particular interview. This is very key. You need to study the job description, and I think this we talked about earlier. Carefully, and always highlight your qualification, qualities, and experience that make you a good match for this position that you're applying. I would usually advise somebody to go through them one by one to see how you're qualified, because you might find maybe 1 or 2 points you don't have the qualification, but you need to have an answer on how you're going to tackle that so that you can be able to beat your opponents who are also interviewing in that session. Remember, you're not the only person being interviewed in these job interviews. We proceed by you doing a background check behind you make sure that the background behind you is very clean. Yeah, you can see where I'm doing my call is on a plane. I would do it on also on a banner because it's an organization call. But if you're doing an interview, ensure that your background is not interrupted. You're not doing it somewhere in the park where we have the birds flying and the monkey jumping, or a lot of noise coming from your background. It should be a well presented place that is relaxed. Find a very stable place to place your laptop if you're using your laptop or your phone, but always ensure that you have a backup. Yeah. Most people do not fully charge their batteries when they're getting into such video calls. That is very dangerous. You need to have a backup. If the laptop fails, then you need to have probably your phone that can log in that particular Zoom call or whatever it is, in case something happens. It has to be stable. You don't put your interview, then it's shaking, you distract the people from the other end, and so that shows how much you're not prepared. If you're not prepared for the interview, you're not prepared for the job. It's usually as simple as that. Make sure everything is in place and you have done all the necessary tests 15 minutes before the agreed time. That is if you're doing a written test, right? And so you check through your answers and just make sure that 15 minutes before time you're ready, and just getting through to see if there is anything you left out or something that you answered in a hurry that you may need to redo or check again. Speak very clearly and audible so that the interviewer can hear you, so that they don't struggle to hear you. Be somebody who, when you're articulating your points, you're able to see that you are sure of what you're saying and you're confident about it, and so you can be able to implement the same. The other one is the don'ts that you are not allowed to do in the interviews, and we have several. They're not limited to the ones that are listed in this particular interview. There are several others, but these are the key ones and the key mistakes that we do when we go for these interviews. Some people would go speaking negatively about your employer, or a boss, or the co-workers, how bad they were and all that. That is not good. That is not what took you to the interview. You are supposed to show how best you fit for that particular position, other than rubbishing what your employers has done in the past. Do not use your mobile during the interviews. Most of the time we say keep it off or silent so that it does not distract you during the interview session. Do not lie or misrepresent yourself. Why do we say this? Because if you lie in an interview, you will be required to, do the job or the responsibility that you had stated that you have experience in. And if you're not able to perform that during your probation period, then of course you will be in problems. So do not misrepresent yourself just to please the panel. Be confident enough to talk and just say the truth about your previous, uh, job um, job experience and achievements. Do not panic or lose cool when faced with a tough question. If you have not understood a question, please ask the panel to repeat the question so that you are able to, internalize it and just answer it in the correct way. If you are faced with a tough question, try to find a way around it, how to answer it, but don't start showing that, oh, I don't know this question and I don't know how to answer it. This also just shows how you can think on your toes. A reflection of what you will do if you are in a job place. If you're given the job, then it means that if something arises that you are not prepared, or it is just out of your norm in job descriptions and it happens at the workplace, then you are able to handle it and without losing your cool. We talked about wearing very bright and extreme colors. You don't want to go and look like Santa in the interview room. You wear professionally dark warm colors that are not going to just take the attention from you to your dressing. So the panel are left confused whether to concentrate on you or your dressing. Let's say do not wear a strong scent of perfume. This is because different people are affected differently with this scents and perfume. You may find that in the room that you're going to be, somebody is allergic, or it's not just, it doesn't just augur well with them. So keep it very simple. If you have to use a perfume, please let it be one that is very mild. Do not bring up the topic of salary too early. What do you mean by this? We mean that when you get into an interview session, you should be striving to show the employer how, how equipped you are in terms of your qualifications and achievements that you've done in your previous jobs. So most of the time, you after selling yourself, then they are able to see how much you are worth, and the salary negotiations, of course, is a topic that will always come in. So let it be introduced at the end of the interview once you have convinced the panel that you are up to tasks. All right. Do not drink, smoke, or use narcotics before your interview. A very common mistake done by many. Don't just assume that tomorrow morning I will wake up and I'll be fine. Try keep away, or if you can't, just try minimize whatever it is that you take the previous night, so that you are sober enough to undertake your interview. Great. So we wind up the don'ts. Do not dress appropriately only from the waist up for your video interviews. This is in the cases of Zoom. What if you're asked to bring maybe something, or you need to show the panel something, and you need to stand up. So you are here dressed, you have your suit on, but I don't know, a short or something. We've seen so many videos trending of the same. Don't be a mock-up of the same. Do not let anyone else in your room. If you have kids, please keep them away. If you have visitors on such a day, ensure that you're using a room that has no one. The distractions, the noise is going to just make your interview bad, and it also shows how much you do not care about the environment that you are partaking that interview. Do not take the call for the interview in a loud setting. This is because there will be echoes. So you need to be in a very quiet space, and also a place where you can hear the interviewer very clearly, as well as they can hear you, so that you can have communication and avoid the breakdowns that come with it. If you're unable to see or hear your interview properly, do not be shy to let them know. I'm hoping all our participants are able to see me. So if you are not able to see me, please just raise your hand, so that you are sure you are talking to to somebody and they are listening to you. Maybe your microphone is on mute, or you're not getting them properly. You may end up answering questions that you have not heard well or understood. Great. We have verbal versus non-verbal communication in the interview. I said earlier, there's a scholar who said you cannot not communicate. When you say you cannot not communicate, whether you are silent, whether you are speaking, whether you are showing something, illustrating something, or demonstrating something, you will be communicating anyway. So you cannot not communicate. So a verbal communication is communication through the use of language, and you need to practice your speaking skills to present the best aspect of yourself. And this will help you to match, your the requirements of the job that you're applying for. So for effective verbal communication, you use an appropriate pitch, tone, and volume of your voice. Don't be too loud. Don't be too, low. And also just use, a professional tone when you are answering these questions. Listen before you speak, and that is for a very obvious reason. You need to internalize what you want to answer to the interviewer, because if they ask you a question, then you need to, you have very few seconds to put up an answer for that. So please listen to yourself in your mind before you speak. Respond very politely and keep the conversation going. Do not be rude in conversations where you are when you're attending an interview. If you mumble or hesitant, then it means you're not sure, or you're trying to guess. So you should speak very clearly. Be honest and truthful, and this goes a long way even in how you answer questions that are being given to you from the panel about your past, your employment gaps and all that. Be very honest and truthful, because they need to understand you so that they be able to make a decision, and this may not bring for you issues later when you get the job. Don't be too serious. Use humor to lighten up the conversation when appropriate. But if you're not a humor person, please do not pull that so that you don't mess up with your interviews. And you really need to ask relevant questions that are relevant to the job you're interviewing for. I spoke earlier and said, if it is it is a question, let it be a question that is, it is connected to the job descriptions that were listed in your job. How am I going to be of assistance? What are the failures that have taken place in the past in this particular position? What are the what are things that I will need to improve if I get this job? So it shows how serious you are, and you're hands-on, and you want to begin the job immediately and just bring solutions to the organization. Well, nonverbal ones, this excludes language and concentrates on communication through your body language. Usually very powerful, more than the verbal ones. For effective nonverbal communication, you make sure you make eye contact to the interviewer for a few seconds. And if it is a panel, like we said, it might be a panel. You don't concentrate on one person. You tend to look at the person who is speaking at that particular time. And if it is your turn to speak, address each and every person as you are looking at them. It shows how keen you are to engage the interview panel. Smile and nod in assurance. The times when you're in agreement when the interview is talking, so that they get to know you are understanding or you are at par with what they're talking about. We talked about sitting upright without slouching or leaning back. Don't sit like a boss that you've already secured the job or you're sure the job is yours. So you need to sit upright and professionally during the interview. You need to relax and be very attentive. This comes along with appearing very confident, interested, and engaged when they are explaining about the job at the organization. Then you listen carefully so that you're able to pick one or two things that may be of great help as you continue answering your questions. Do not fidget and do unnecessary movements. That is not the time to start checking where you kept your bag, so checking if your nails are okay, or if be very professional at this particular point. Do not cross your arms over your chest, or just sit comfortably as if you're not being interviewed. So time is really going, and I'm going to just take us through some few questions of how best to navigate them during the interview. And one of the common questions is, tell us about yourself, a question that most people are asked, and we find it in the interviews at the first questions. The mistake most people do is to give a long brief of non-relevant information in terms of your marital status, I don't know where you come from and all that. That is not really necessary at this point. When you're told to talk about yourself, please be brief and to the point. You need to include the experiences that you have and are relevant to that particular job. And how do you do this? You link your job experiences to the ones that are listed, and the ones that make you a perfect match and a candidate that is going to be selected for that particular job. If it is your first time you're applying for a job, describe your personality, talents, and achievement. So far, this is for people who are getting into entry-level jobs. They don't have so much experiences. And also link these to the requirements of the position you're required to do. Be very confident, because in this snap, the employer gets to learn a whole lot about you. And the backgrounds will be as simple as your names, your achievement in terms of your education, and a brief summary of the skills and talents that you have accrued over the years if you have experiences. What are your weaknesses? Interviewees, if you say that you don't have a weakness, then you are lying. We are all human beings. We have weaknesses. The secret is in how you're going to answer it, because you need to make your weakness sound positive. If it is something you're struggling with, then you need to make sure that you are informing the panel that you are working on it, or you've worked on it, and this is how it is helping you out. For instance, if you say that your weakness is that you are very weak in saying no to people, so most of the time you'd give yourself to do extra work on behalf of other people. It on the other hand shows that you might not concentrate fully to do your particular job that you're given and not finish your tasks on time, but also that you're ready to to help and assist. So how are you working towards that weakness? Then you need to answer and say that you take time to ensure more time, probably apart from your normal working hours, to ensure that all other jobs that were pending are taken care of. So make sure that you answer this question in a very positive way, because weaknesses are always there. Great. So tell me about a time that you overcame an obstacle. This is a behavioral question, and most of the time I usually say that you need to know how to approach such questions. And the best way to answer all behavioral questions is to use the STAR approach. That is the situation, task, action, and results. Yeah. You can find time to go to the internet to Google about that. You get the situation at hand. What was the situation that was presented on your table, and what are the actions that you took? What are what was the task at hand, and what are the actions that you took? Was it resolved if it was a conflict? Was it resolved if it was an issue pending? If it was a customer that was agitated, did they finally feel that they have been attended to in a manner that is not going to bring a very negative response from the public out there? So ensure that this is well tackled. Most employers will see if you came across a challenge whilst working under your job, then you are able to tackle it. Why do you want to work for this company? Sounds like a very simple question, but most of the time people do not answer it correctly. So you need to do your research and point out the things that are unique about that particular organization that you have applied a job for. If they have a great name out there on the things that they're doing, the missions, and they're aligned to what you are ascribed for, then you should be able to mention that. Also pick out the things that they're doing in public that are making them stand out there. So, and also remember to match those things with the qualifications and skills and qualities that you have as a person that you're going to bring into the organization and help them achieve their vision and mission at the long run. So why are you leaving your current position? Most people would lie about this, and we say that please answer this question honestly, but without providing too much personal or negative detail. You do not speak bad about your previous employer. Please provide reasons. If it was a contract that ended, please mention. If it is because you're sick, if it is because you needed to take care of a little one, or you're relocating, or probably you are fired, you need to mention that, but do not go into so much details about the same. Why should we hire you? This is the time to give yourself the best shot and sell yourself to the employer. Your answer should cover everything that you have done at work and delivered at that particular time. How fit are you in terms of working with teams? in adopting with cultures, because each organization has its own culture. You do not want to be the person who comes out there and gets into organization and just start bringing in a lot of issues and conflicts around. So you need to like sell yourself how you're going to be in sync with the organization, and you're going to bring in your skills, qualities, and qualification to ensure that you know you are helping the organization to get to places. Remember, you are competing against other candidates, so this is the time that you really need to market yourself. There is this question that is very common. Why is there a gap in your employment history? Like I said earlier, most people would lie about it, and somehow it will catch up with you. So you need to be very honest and share details that you are comfortable with your employer. Like I said earlier, if you are changing locations, if you needed to stop to do your education, you needed to there's several other issues. If you are fired, if the organization was restructuring, if there are 1,001 reasons, but you need to ensure that during this explanation, then if you are out of employment for 1 2 3 months or even 1 year, then you need to explain how you gained other skills and qualities during such period of time, so that it doesn't just look that you're seated and you're wasted for an entire year without getting this. How do you do this? You may mention the short courses that you have undertaken, or webinars like these ones that you are attending. We have so many webinars that are undertaken by Unicaf. So you find each week we have webinars. So do you have skills that you have learned during that time that you can present yourself and take advantage of those certifications? So even as you leave this place today, remember Unicaf also has such webinars. So you take advantage of such and use them during your interview for your case. What salary are you seeking? They say there's never a better way of answering this question, but the best thing is to try to get your employer to give you their range first. Some organizations have their ranges, of course, shown on the internet, and we have the salary, whatever's that we have on the internet, so you're able to check the ranges that this particular organization offers between this and this. Some have already indicated that in their job descriptions. If they have not, then you should know beforehand the general range for the position based on your experience alongside your education and also your skills. Please also, you can make sure the hiring manager knows that you're flexible enough to negotiate this amidst your skills, and that what is important is you to get the job and work on it. And if you are truly a person who is experienced and performs in their job, then I believe that even if you're given a salary, then your boss will be able to renegotiate with you. Yes, so I think that's it about that. There's several other questions. We may never discuss all of them. Those are just a few and key ones. There's one thing that usually affects a lot of people, and that is overcoming anxiety and fear in a job interview. Most of the times people fail not because they are not qualified, but maybe they are not able to express the same because they're anxious or fear when they get into the interview. So what can we do? You may not be able to eliminate the fear fully or the anxiety, but the things that you can do to make yourself feel better, feel relaxed, so that you're in a position to answer the questions well in the interview. So one of the things is to get enough rest the evening before your interview. Most people I see travel overnight from long distances, and then the next morning you're arriving in this town and you're getting into the interview. Probably one or two things, the taxi person did this, so you have a lot of messes in the morning, so you get anxious and restless as you head towards your interview. So try and get enough rest. If it's a place where you need to travel way in advance so that you have enough sleep and you are well rested. Arrive on time so that you avoid panicking, that we talked about. Eat something light before your interview so that you don't feel like your stomach is growling. And we said we do not drink alcohol or caffeine to calm your nerves. Be you, and just attend the interview in the most sober way you can. Be prepared beforehand. If you do not do your research quite well, be sure you will be anxious in the interview, because when they ask you questions and you're not able to respond to them, then it's obvious that you'll start feeling fearful and anxious on the interview. So prepare as much. Take time to practice. Walk possibly in front of a mirror and do a mock interviews. Try to speak and see how you'd answer the questions and how the interview sees you from the other end. Yeah. Sounds very silly, but works a lot for many people, helps them to see the mistakes that they do while they are interviewing. Have positive thoughts and try to relax. You don't go there and start seeing other candidates and you're like, if these are the people going for the interview, then I don't think I can get the job. You need to have these positive thoughts and just relax, give it your best, because you prepared for the interview well in time. Remember that the interviewer is a human being just like you, so you don't need to fear much. You need to be professional and just prepared for the interview. That's it. Yeah. So that when you are asked questions, you are able to respond. So once you're done with the interview and you have gone home, we have something called the post-interview etiquette. What is this? These are the things that you need to do, or not you don't need to do after the interview, and they are very important to note. So one of the best things to do is to send a thank you note to your interviewer a day after your interview, just thanking them. Be brief, usually an email, thanking them of giving you a chance to be part of that, interview panel, and you were glad to be interviewed by the company. The interviewer will also give you an idea of the hiring time frame. If you ask that in the question, they are able to tell you that probably will respond to you in a week's time, in 2 weeks time, in a month's time. This varies according to different organizations. So once they have done that, gives you enough time to know when to follow up or reach out to these people. And also when you do this, please, you need to be very careful on what you write on the emails, and not put up so many stories. Just restrict your interest and also reach out to the interviewer during such a time. Some people make a mistake of sending multiple messages, emails, and calls to do the follow-up. Now that becomes a nuisance. If you have done it once, that's okay, unless you are asked to call back or probably check out with them after a while. So I will not advocate for you to keep calling, the reception and writing emails and, because they usually a protocol on how interviews takes place in the organization, so it doesn't just land on one person's desk. Not following up or not sending a thank you note can make the employer think you're not very interested. So make a point, just like we said, a day after, to send a thank you note to your potential employer. They say do not send gifts or flowers to the interview after the interview. Looks like a bribe, okay? So you keep it professional until the time that you get a response of whether you have passed the interview or not. So do not send emails and messages of desperate please. That resonates to what we had discussed earlier. If you have already sent a thank you note, then you need to be calm and wait for the interviewer to reach out to you, because they will definitely reach out to you within the time period that they had offered. Well, so that the interview skills is a very wide topic, and several other things and questions to be tackled. And for today, that is what we are going to share with you.